Welcome to the Mike and Vin podcast here for our initial inauguration, episode 1. It's great to be here. I'm Vin, one of your co-hosts that's going to be here every week, hopefully, to talk some sports and some sports betting and then whatever else is on my mind. I'll be joined every week by my great co-host, Mike. Mike, how are you tonight?
Thanks, Vin. So great to be here for the opening podcast. Really excited to do this. We've been waiting a while and looking forward to giving you a lot of good content and some laughs and just something to tune into just to relax everybody. So very happy to be here. I also, part of this podcast is having a weekly guest. So we're very happy to have our good friend, Mr. Jeff Mazpule, right down there. Jeff is an avid Giants fan. We'll be getting to that later in the show, but so much has happened with that organization. And he'll give his insights, but just great for Jeff to be here. Welcome.
Thank you for having me. Honored to be the first guest here, guys. This is awesome.
Yeah, we're happy to have you, Jeff. I mean, know you for a bunch of years. Just to give some people some background on all of us. We at one time we all worked at the same company, all different departments, but got to know each other. Did a lot of sports talk and general life discussions through those years, and we're going to bring it to this show. Not only we're going to talk sports, we're going to try to talk about other things as time comes up. But I figured let's start off episode 1, recap some of our picks from last week that we did on our Instagram page. For anyone that wants to check out our Instagram, you can go to Vin and Mike podcast on Instagram. We'll have a bunch of postings there as the show grows, and you can see our picks from last week. But I think we did pretty good, 4-2 to start the wild card weekend. The first game we lost, and we lost the last game, but everything in the middle we did okay on. So let's give a little recap on that, Mike. Let's talk about your best bet.
Yeah, so my best bet was Kansas City minus 12.5 against Pittsburgh. This was a Pittsburgh team that, I hate to say it, but they were really lucky to get into the playoffs. And I just wasn't seeing much on the offensive or defensive end, Vin. I think they're well coached, but Kansas City just outplayed them. Although in that first quarter, you started to wonder, was Pittsburgh really in it? But Kansas City just stuck with their guns. Patrick Mahomes played great. And I just had a feeling that this is a team to go into Kansas City. They just beat them a couple weeks ago. I think that they were just the team to beat. So I thought that was my strongest bet. And it won, just like your strongest bet, Vinny. So we both hit our best bets.
Yeah, I like Tampa last week. I didn't like Philadelphia going on the road. To me, they didn't show any impressive road wins all season. They really beat up on a pretty weak NFC East all year on the road. They played the Jets also, and I think Detroit was one of their other road victories. They weren't great at all on the road. I was a little suspect of how Jalen Hurts and that Eagles rush was going to do against the Tampa Bay rush defense that was coming back nice and healthy. So I thought, getting 8.5 points to me was the right bet on that. Jeff, did you have any bets that you made or anything that you thought was?
I'm so bad at sports gambling, I have to say. My track record is horrendous. I keep asking my wife. See, now I need to get permission from my wife to place even just the smallest bet. That's how bad I am. So it's.
I could tell you one thing that Jeff was stoked about: the Eagles and Cowboys losing. That made him happy. That won his bet.
Yeah, that was. I slept good. It was fantastic. Yeah, we'll talk more about that in a bit, but that made my weekend.
Let me tell you what happened yesterday. So I talked to Mike yesterday during the day, and I hit a couple of bets over the weekend and some single game parlays. So he says to me, he goes, well, let's put one together. I said, all right. I said, I like Cooper Kupp anytime touchdown. I think that's a good one. He goes, yeah. He goes, why don't you pair it with the Cardinals winning? And, and I was like, okay, that sounds good. And I'll add Zach Ertz to that one. So you know how that one turned out yesterday.
Yeah, gambling is a shit show. It's you know, I wonder what's going on in Vegas. I mean, they're right on the money every single time with the spreads, with the unders and overs. It's like ridiculous. I don't even know what. I don't know. Is it like the kid from Moneyball back there, just like deciding what they put as like lines? Like,
it's incredible how they come up with the odds. Like I always think about that.
It is amazing.
All these stats, yeah, it's insane. Like what they come up with and how they do it.
Yeah.
And it's amazing. Like the over unders always impress me how they're like a point or 2 points, like right from it, and it drives me nuts sometimes because I'm like, oh my god, they're like, how could they be like under in this game and over on this one? But it's very rare that they're so far off. It's very close.
Yeah.
Done
there's been a couple spreads I've seen, like just the past couple of years. When Tom Brady was back on the Pats, there was a spread that was like, I think they were playing like the Dolphins, and they were like winless or something like that, and the spread was like 19.5 or like 21 or something like that. I'm like, that's crazy. You got to take the Dolphins. The Pats covered. I'm just like, how do they do this?
Yeah, I forget the game. It was Alabama. I forget who they were playing this year, and I want to say the spread was 59. It was something like that, and they covered. They ended up covering. They ended up winning like it was like 70-7. I can't remember the exact game, but it was nuts because I remember saying, how can you not take 59 points to start a game? Like, I mean, are they even going to score that many points? Might as well as the other team not going to score. And
no, what's crazy now with what's crazy with the gambling apps. When we were younger and watched football, we could care less as far as if someone was up by like 20 points, you were just happy the team won. Now true gamblers like, you got to score another touchdown just to make it 13. They don't give a shit about win or loss. It's just it's a total difference now.
You just want to enjoy the winning. That's why, gambling is just too hard, and people make a living off of it, surprisingly. And that's a tough lifestyle, right? I mean, they're just like living and dying by every game that they watch. And, I just enjoy the winning. That's it. I just want my team to win and root for one thing, and it just makes it that much easier. I play fantasy football, which is, I guess, kind of gambling. But, I hate rooting against the Giants. I hate rooting against all my other teams.
Right.
Not a gambler, but I do it every now.
I think what it's done is it's just vested the average fan into watching the games, right? And I think that's why especially NFL, which is the biggest gambling sport there is,
right?
The average person that maybe will watch, the Super Bowl, and that's about it. Now they're sitting at home, they can bet on games right from their house. They don't, $5 bets you could put in and sit there, and they're vested in a game. And the NFL's now getting a lot more ratings. The TV contracts go up. Everything just goes up. It's almost a win-win for them in so many different ways.
Now they have like the betting lines right on ESPN. Right?
Yeah, that's a new thing. They just scroll them. They just scroll them at the bottom now.
Yeah, it's amazing. It's like you're watching the stock market, the ticker go by. You're looking at spreads. That's a good point.
And then all the channels have dedicated, gambling shows. Right?
Every channel you go to now, it's a major revenue generator. It's exciting.
Yeah, no, that's good. So, talking about gambling, let's talk about the one underdog that did win this past weekend, and it was probably the most exciting game of them all, and that was the Dallas Cowboys against the 49ers. And we know there was a lot of controversy in that game, a lot of excitement in that game. Mike, I'll ask you.
I have a lot to say about this.
Yeah, tell me some of your feedback on what you saw.
These people who are blaming at the end of the game with that controversy, just going there and what happened. That's not a ref issue, okay? What they should have done was you have no timeouts, and you go you take a rush in the middle of the field. The only quarterback that should be doing that is Josh Allen, maybe Patrick. Dak Prescott should not be doing that. If you had a timeout, absolutely. But they were doing so well, Vinny and Jeff, passing before that, 10, 15-yard passes out of bounds, out of bounds, out of bounds. It was just poorly executed, and this is with coaching. Also, you have 15 penalties in a game, you're not going to win. They were penalized so much that you're not going to – and I'm surprised how much they were in it, guys, because honestly, the 49ers should have won by like 20 points. I was pleasantly surprised how close the Cowboys were with the play that they had and the penalties that they had. They were lucky to be that close. And the 49ers, they played good, but towards the end, just things went the Cowboys' way. But bad penalties and poor coaching is where they are. And you can't blame anyone else. You can't blame the refs. Agreed?
100%. That was not a ref issue. They know that you have to hand the ball to the refs. So the
Correct.
Refs got it.
Yeah.
So that was a complete just Dak failing under pressure right at the last second, right? He had the ability to also check out of the call. Quarterbacks have the ability to audible, right? You got to make the judgment there. Like you said, Diener, you nailed it. They were making 10, 15-yard passes all the way down the field. I was texting my buddies. I'm like, they could actually pull this off. They're just they're playing prevent defense. Just keep taking the cushion.
Just keep doing that. You had time for one more of those. Yeah.
They made it to the 40-yard line, wasn't it? Wasn't it the 40?
They were at the 40-yard line with 12 seconds. Something. Vinny
decides to run it with no timeouts. That is, first of all, that's poor coaching to even call that play, right? That's the offensive coordinator calling that play and then the head coach approving it. Okay, so that's two people that, what are you guys thinking? So, to me,
here's the bottom line. They were out-coached, they were outplayed, and they were outsmart.
Right.
Period.
It's a pressure thing, right? It's the monkey on their back. The Dallas Cowboys, they've been what? I think I read it was like 11-0 or 12 or 0-12 since I don't even know, the mid-90s.
Yeah.
In first round playoffs. That to me is the monkey on the back. And when they get there every year, there's an extra amount of pressure, especially with Dak Prescott, because he's made it a couple of years. He's just not the guy. I'm convinced he's just not the guy. They need someone who could do well, but under pressure. But first and foremost, it's the coaching. I'm surprised Mike McCarthy even has a job still.
Yeah, Vinny, I'm going to ask you, what do you think happens to McCarthy going forward? Do you think they keep him, or do you think his job's in real jeopardy?
So this is Jerry Jones's team, and as we know, Jerry's got a big ego. He does not like to fire coaches, because when you fire coaches, it means you made the wrong hire. I see them keeping McCarthy. I think that's not even going to be debated at all with them. And to go back to the play real quick, if you're going to run a QB draw at that point, and the idea, according to what McCarthy was saying, it was so they could run a 4 vertical route instead of a Hail Mary, so Dak, could make that play, which is fine. But, tell your quarterback, you go 10-yard slide, spot the ball, give it to the umps. The ump spots the ball. You spike. You probably at that point have 3 seconds left, right? And then you have the one shot. Once you've extended that run down to, I think it was almost the 15-yard line, you took so much time off the clock. You're trying to spot the ball yourself, which, as you guys alluded to, you can't do that. The ump has to spot that ball. Everybody knows that. And then you got to, the spike. There was just not enough time. And Mike, like you said, he made 3 consecutive throws right before that. All went out of bounds. The first play was actually a really nice play. It was that nice Cedric Wilson catch over the middle and pitch to Lamb, which I thought was a really nice call there to start the drive. And then, the 49ers were playing very much prevent defense, and they were playing prevent, not even to prevent the sidelines. They were just playing straight up prevent. And then what they did on that last play is they did start covering the sidelines, which is why I think they decided to do the draw. But again, if you're going to do that, you have to realize you have, I think it was 12 seconds. And let's just say
I think it was 12. Yeah.
You have about 9 seconds at that point. So you go as far as you can, probably with 4 seconds.
Right.
And then you take that ball, you hand it right off to the ump, and you probably spike it, even if with 2 seconds. Now you're at the 30-yard line, let's say, and you have a better opportunity at that point. But when you don't have a coach that is managing every aspect of the game correctly, this was the most penalized team in football. This is a team that had 14 penalties in that game. They had defensive holding penalties that I've never seen before in my life.
Especially at the end there.
Yeah, neutral zone infractions. I've never seen a defensive line cause so many penalties in a game.
Discipline, right? That is 100%
totally
coaching. Mike McCarthy has been terrible all year with time management.
Yeah. And you look at Dallas, everyone's like, oh, they won 12 games. Well, let's be real again. They were 6-0 in the NFC East, right? They played a bad Philly team, a bad Giants team, a bad Washington team. And then they were 6-5 away from the division, right? So it wasn't like they were 15-2. They were a good team, but they weren't great. And I think San Francisco has that bully mentality, and they came in and they ran the ball down their throats. Deebo Samuel is a different animal out there. Mitchell, I like him a lot. Nice rookie running back. Jimmy G tried to give the game away to them. I don't know, Kyle Shanahan, I don't know if he's ever going to learn to run the ball. I mean, they didn't run it in Atlanta. They didn't run it when they played Kansas City in the Super Bowl.
When he does run it, he runs it with a wide receiver.
Yeah, and then he has Jimmy G rolling out, throwing that ridiculous pass, and I don't know, Jimmy G, man. I don't know. He doesn't give you a warm and fuzzy. But and even them, they had the stupid penalty on with a minute to go, and that fourth and short, and he's 25 of 25 on quarterback sneaks. The guy's 100%. Your quarterback. Why are you motioning Trent Williams out of all people from the left side to the right side? You think you're gonna fool them that they're gonna go right? Just have your quarterback just go. I didn't get
probably it. Thinking this is what we've done successfully all year. They probably have the tape on that, right? That's probably something they scouted. They probably see the QB sneak coming, so they're probably thinking, let's switch it up a little bit. But sometimes you got to do it, right? It's like, all right, guess what? We're the best at QB sneaking, and they know it's coming, but it's their job to stop it.
Right.
Yeah. But again, I think it comes down to that game comes down to a lot of penalties, poor management.
Yes.
CeeDee Lamb to me did not impress me down the stretch. I don't know, where he's going to be this number one receiver playing the way he did down the stretch. He didn't play well at all in this game. A lot of injuries. They have not run the ball well all year. I don't think Elliott had a really good game all season. Not
himself. I don't know. I mean, I know he got injured towards the middle of the year. Maybe he just never recovered. But that was weeks ago. You would think that he'd be kind of close to normal by now, and I haven't seen it. I think you put Pollard in there 100% of the time and make him the starter.
Yeah, that could be where they move forward, but
he's super fast, and every time he gets the ball, he seems to be more productive than Zeke. So
yeah, and you paid Dak franchise money. He is your franchise quarterback, so you're gonna have to live with that at this point. You're gonna have to build around them. They got to get CeeDee Lamb better. Cooper's got to stay on the field, and like you said, Jeff, they need to get a running game. And you put that all together, and you go your home play in San Francisco just wasn't good enough, and
I think they lost that game more than the 49ers won it.
That's a great point.
Yeah,
they lost it for themselves. Absolutely.
Penalties. That's going to kill you. And they had a shot at the very end against all odds. Right? They shouldn't have been in it. They were down by 16 points or something like that at one point.
Yeah. Yeah. Just remember
they were just leaving the door open, and they completely shot themselves in the foot.
Yeah, it was 16-7 when Dak threw that pick, and then the next play Samuel ran it in. It was 23-7. I think it was halfway through the third quarter.
You thought they were out of it for sure.
Yeah. And then like I said, at 23-10. Jimmy G decided to throw the the craziest interception. And then the non-fumble, the George Kittle, which ended up becoming an incomplete pass, they almost completely imploded there. I thought they're gonna completely implode here, but ended up becoming an incomplete pass and ended up on saving them throughout the game. But be interesting moving forward now. San Francisco now regroups and they head to Lambeau Field. Aaron Rodgers is waiting for them, so it'll be fun and interesting. Hey, Pooch, how you doing?
Howie with special guest
appearance. Yeah, hope you guys don't mind.
That's fine.
You know what? People love dogs on Instagram.
That's right. Well, to make sure we screenshot that one and post it up there.
Yeah, he's a real guest.
So, yeah, that's great. I love that. So, so talking about the other games, I'm just trying to figure out which team or maybe player impressed you the most out of all the other games. We don't have to break down all the other games, but I'd like to get your thoughts on maybe a player or a team that really impressed you most. Mike, who was that for you?
It was the Buffalo Bills. I mean, you talk about perfection is so difficult, and you play a Belichick New England Patriots team, always been well coached, and Buffalo just destroyed them. Their first 5 possessions, touchdowns? They didn't punt the ball, no field goals. But I give my MVP to Josh Allen. When he was drafted in 2018, his biggest issue was the accuracy his first couple of years. Now he has that. He has the momentum. He could rush it. I mean, he's playing with so much confidence right now. And I really, truly believe that this Buffalo-Kansas City game, which we'll talk about, I think the winner of that game will go to the Super Bowl. I truly do. I was just watching that. I think we all thought, and you guys tell me, I thought it was going to, in that kind of weather, 2 AFC teams, going to be a typical low-scoring, close game, and Buffalo just knocked it out of the park. It was awesome to watch. They've been talked about all season. Are they legit? And I think, this Kansas City game I'm really looking forward to. Josh Allen, that's my choice. He was
and just to reiterate what you said real quick, they had 8 possessions in that game, Buffalo. 7 of them were touchdowns, and the last one was them kneeling the ball, to end the game. I think they were the first team ever to score touchdowns in their first 7 possessions. The only hiccup they had was the kicker missed 2 extra points. But besides that,
I don't think anyone was focused.
Everything else clicked, right? I mean, there was nothing they did that didn't click. They played good defense. They took New England totally out of the game. But you're right, Josh Allen. I don't have the exact numbers in front of me, but I know he threw over 300 yards. I know he threw 5 touchdowns. I know he rushed close to 60 or 65 yards. He was amazing. And I remember his first playoff game when he looked like he had no clue what he was doing. He was just throwing the ball all over the place, fumbling. I was like, if this guy is going to play like this the rest of his career, Buffalo's made a terrible draft pick, but now you go back and back to that draft, which had a bunch of quarterbacks. He's definitely the number 1 guy that was taken out of that draft. So that was my feelings on that as a whole. So
yeah, that was just complete and utter domination by the Bills. It doesn't get more dominant than that. It's going to be amazing to watch Josh Allen versus Patrick Mahomes for decade, 15, 20 years. It's going to be like the next biggest QB rivalry. So that was awesome to watch. My pick is Joe Burrow. This guy, first time in the playoffs, first postseason game, cool, calm, and collected. It was nothing. It was just another game. It's just amazing. I think the chemistry he has with Jamar Chase, the fact that ownership drafted Joe Burrow and Jamar Chase to be together that is genius. That's a move that other teams have to consider. When you look at a quarterback and you have a young quarterback, look at the receivers that they had on their team. See if you can get them on that team, because they must have skipped like 2 or 3 years of practice just to get like chemistry down, right? That's kind of what it takes to have like a quarterback and wide receiver have a good chemistry. They're just on the same page constantly.
And Maz, they needed that chemistry that game, because Mixon, their rushing wasn't that great. So they needed that chemistry more than ever in that game.
They just trust each other. I mean, if you look at the passes Joe Burrow was making, there weren't anything crazy, right? It was just throwing it directly at Jamar Chase and trusting him to grab the ball. That's really, really what it was. But the main thing of it is timing. It's not going to be, an amazing play, but as long as it's well timed and Jamar Chase knows exactly when to turn around, put his hands up. Because if you look at most of the passes or some of the passes, he's running down the field. It's just a go route, and then he stops and turns around, and the ball hits him right in the chest. It's not a back shoulder pass. It's not an over the shoulder pass. It wasn't even technically a button hook pattern. It's the ball's in the air. He turns around and just catches it as it's falling backwards. Right? That's pure timing and chemistry. You can't get that anywhere else unless you've played with someone for a while. But the fact that he was just so calm the entire game and just poised, Joe Burrow has that thing about him, right? It looks like he's been in the league for more than 2 years, 3 years, or whatever it's been, right? He might have one of those, Eli Manning, Ben Roethlisberger, rookie or first, second year quarterback, and he wins the Super Bowl. Like that is possible this year for him, So, yeah, I think it's the AFC is completely stacked with teams. I mean, you have the Titans who are getting Derrick Henry back now, the Bills, the Chiefs. It's a tough crowd to be in, but the Bengals looked awesome. So I'm excited to watch that. They're actually the team I'm going to be rooting for the rest of the way. So
yeah, Steve Spagnuolo when the Chiefs played the Bengals said that Burrow reminded him of a young Tom Brady, which that's the highest compliment you can get nowadays. But I always think about you mentioned Chase, and I think about that 2019 LSU championship team that had Chase and had Justin Jefferson and had Clyde Edwards-Helaire. Now you see those guys in the NFL along with Burrow. You could see why they were so dominant in college, and it translated to the NFL. It's just amazing that to have all that talent on one college team, and now those guys are basically all pros at the next level. It's just amazing.
Right. And they were doubting Jamar Chase before the season started, right? They were saying in training camp he had a case of the yips, right? He did not have a good training camp at all.
Yeah.
Right. So for him to come back and turn it around like that's awesome.
Yeah, a lot of rookie receivers. They have the drops and all that, and then the second year or later in the first season they get it together.
Yep.
So the ceiling. You're right. The ceiling's high for the Bengals. So for me, the guy I was most impressed with, and the only reason I'm going to go this way is because I've killed him for the last 15 years is Matt Stafford, and I
had a feeling you were going to.
Yeah, he finally stepped up to the plate. He finally stepped up to the plate. I thought the Cardinals did a good job early on against Cooper Kupp, and they exploited that with Beckham and Higbee. I thought they ran the ball really well with Sonny Michel and Cam Akers coming back is a major plus. That's going to be something interesting to see as they go to Tampa this week. But Matt Stafford actually made a lot of good throws last night. He did a lot of the things that you expect a number one pick for many years ago to do. And I thought it was a bad trade when the Rams got him. Not that he was not going to be better than Goff. I just didn't think he was a guy that could win a playoff game or take them to that next level. And he proved it last night and really, really did a phenomenal job. I was very impressed with the Rams as a whole last night. I looked at Kyler Murray. He looked like a deer in headlights last night. He was definitely nervous. He definitely was not. He was not ready for that game last night. I don't know. It's because he doesn't have Hopkins, so he didn't have that comfort factor to throw the ball to. But he he didn't look sure of himself in the pocket at any time. There was times when to me, it looked like he just fell down to get sacked instead of trying to get away or didn't want to get hit. And then at 14-0, when he threw that underhand, I don't know what he did there for the pick six. And to me, the game was over at that point.
Absolutely.
But prior to that, I was, Stafford led them down. Odell finally showed that, he could be a good, strong number 2 with Kupp. And as we know, he can definitely be a 1A, with Cooper Kupp. So there'll be interesting matchup, I think, this week with Tampa, because I think where Tampa's weak on defense will be in the secondary. And then we'll see how Jalen Ramsey and Aaron Donald do to try to contain Tom Brady. I'll never say you can hold Tom Brady down, at 40,000 years old. He's just getting better as time goes on. And to me, that's an interesting matchup for me this week as well.
Yeah, it's going to be the defensive line. That's what it comes down to, right? I mean, you look historically, how did other teams, not to name any teams that have beaten Tom Brady in the past, but it's all about the defensive line, right? You rattle the old man back there and he gets a little flustered.
Yeah.
So it's going to be Aaron Donald. It's, he's the guy.
Yeah.
Von Miller looks like he's 25 again.
I know. And
he looks great.
And if I'm right, Tristan Wirfs is in a walking boot right now, is what I read.
Massive.
He's going to be a last minute decision. That'd be huge if he comes back.
Well, if first of all, I want to see if Leonard Fournette comes back. I think that's important for them because Keyshawn Vaughn had a good game against the Eagles, and let's be real, they're young team, not really ready for that moment. So they need Fournette back. They're gonna, if they don't have Wirfs, and like Mike just said, with Von Miller looking like he's back to a high level of play, that'll be a real interesting matchup for him. And you're right, it was Justin Tuck and Strahan, those guys always hitting Brady in the first Super Bowl I remember, and really that was the difference in that game, and the difference in a lot of games sometimes is the defensive line play. So it'll be a very interesting game moving forward.
I think also, Vin, to that Tampa has to change their game. You can't rely on the passing because the Rams' pass rush is so dangerous, right?
Yeah.
They have to change their style of play to really compete. And I think of all the matchups, the Rams are going to give Tampa. It's one of
the Bucs have some injuries on the in the receiver corps too. I mean, they lost Godwin. That's a huge loss. So I think you're going to have to start running the ball and then just be conservative, get the play action going, open up Mike Evans. The whole world knows he's going to Mike Evans, right? And Gronk in the red zone, right? But it's going to be Tom Brady to Evans. Scotty Miller's got to get involved too. He's lightning fast. They got to be able. Scotty Miller should be like the Wes Welker on this team, right? Or the Julian Edelman, right? Like the quick, small guy who can go in and out in the slot. That's Tom Brady's thing, right? If you're going to change the game plan up and kind of catch the other team off guard, start looking at that.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Change it up.
Yeah, I don't know. Bruce Arians to me has always been stuck on throwing the ball a lot. You look at
you can't do that against the Rams.
You look at his teams. He's just he likes to throw. He had Winston throwing the ball 2 years ago a ton. He had Brady throwing a ton these last 2 years when he was the offensive coordinator with the Steelers. You can look at Roethlisberger's numbers with them. They threw the ball out. But I think you guys you hit the nail on the head. If Fournette is back, you're gonna have to feed him and run the play action.
Yes.
If I'm the Rams, I think I put Ramsey on Evans all day and just double team Gronk in the middle and like Jeff said, let him beat me with Scotty Miller or Tyler Johnson or one of those other receivers because he doesn't have Godwin and he doesn't have Antonio Brown anymore. So without that number 2 and 3 receiver, you take Evans out, you double team Gronk. I think you put a lot of pressure on them. I think it's an interesting matchup. But anytime we doubt this guy, he figures out a way to win a game, change the course of history again. But we'll see.
I have to laugh because, as a Jets fan, I nightmares over the years. And then they played the Jets this year. The Jets are actually playing really well. And then you knew when Brady had it in the last minute, the nightmares continue. Still making my life a nightmare.
Yeah. You know what I mean? It wasn't even that shocking. Everyone just threw their hands up like,
you just knew it.
Jets.
You just knew it. For certain people.
Just the Jets.
That's it.
Yeah. Well, I still have nightmares of the Tuck rule. I live that game probably every single postseason. I live that game.
There's a clip out there, Vinny, that I need you to check out. It's with Charles Woodson and Tom Brady. What was it for? I think they might have had an interview together on ESPN or something like that. It's out there on the internet, but they talk about the Tuck rule, and Charles Woodson and Tom Brady are like reenacting it in someone's living room. It's super fascinating to watch. You have to watch it.
Yeah, it's Charles Woodson says, "I'm the reason Tom Brady is a Hall of Famer."
Maybe.
It's that old school Michigan connection those guys have together that they keep jabbing at each other. Let's move on. We got Jeff on here. One of the things we want to do with our guests is really talk to them about their specific topic or team or what. And Jeff is a lifelong Giants fan, extremely knowledgeable of his team. Pretty fair when it comes to all things Giants. We'll tell you how it really is. So, I'm going to throw out the first question for Jeff and see how we feel. So I know they got to start in the front office, Jeff. That's where they're looking to rebuild this team. Any thoughts on the general manager position, moving forward for the Giants?
I don't know exactly which candidate I would choose from. I think they're interviewing 9 of them. I think they actually made some cuts today to make it to the next round. But I just want this person to be analytical, right? Dave Gettleman did not believe in analytics. He was very old school and just didn't look at any of that stuff. I want this person to be modern, innovative, and just understand the needs and actually do what he's going to say, right? Dave Gettleman came in and said, I'm going to fix the offensive line, right? He tried. To his credit, he did, draft some folks, but, still remained one of the worst lines, in the league right before he left. So, yeah, I don't know exactly who I would pick, to be honest with you. I'm not, crazy familiar. They're interviewing a lot of, player personnel folks and stuff who aren't really well known. I don't know if they're good or not. But I just want this person to be innovative and just look at the analytics, look at the data, and just make some smart decisions.
When you think of the position, the GM position, do you think of it as looking for, someone from the Patriots or someone from the Bills or someone from the Chiefs? Would that excite you? Or yeah. So, and when you think of that, do you think of? So let's use the Bills for an example. I know they've been interviewing. I think his name is Joe Schoen or something. Brian Gable, right? The offensive coordinator. Do you look at, hey, we get the Bills assistant personnel guy. Do we bring in that head coach? Is that something that would excite you when you look at this process?
Yeah, absolutely. I think you have to look at what they've done in the past and how successful they've been. If you're talking Bills or Chiefs, obviously they've been very successful, and obviously they've made some really smart decisions, right? The Bills haven't been good for that long, right? We all remember the Bills before Josh Allen. So, yeah, that would be absolutely awesome to have someone young, innovative, to think of it like that. I think the whole old school approach has completely screwed us. Things are so different in the league right now. If you look at 5 years ago, to me, everything was completely different, right? And how they made decisions and stuff like that. So, yeah, I think if you're looking for a GM and, there might be a, head coaching candidate out there to pair with them, if it makes sense, go for it. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Maz, obviously the next question, GM to coach, obviously Joe Judge being fired. Some people will argue that he didn't have a lot to work with over there. His firing was unfair. He should have been given another year. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I can agree. I think he was kind of collateral damage. I think things got so bad they had to kind of fire him, right? I mean, the way he was talking in the press conferences, saying, "Oh, we're building something great," right? "Oh, culture is the hardest thing to build and rebuild." That's fine, right? But when you keep saying it and you're not winning, people stop caring, right? You have to win. Winning cures all. So, yeah, I think Joe Judge was collateral damage. At one point, I did believe in him. I mean, he sounded very convincing with the way he, walked and talked. He was very confident. He was kind of like a Belichick Jr. kind of guy, which I love. Like, I felt like the organization needed someone like that to kind of get the locker room together and structured and kind of turn things around, right? We're in the wake of two other head coaches who failed miserably, right? Ben McAdoo and Pat Shurmur. It's like they're going to have to bring in someone like that to kind of, let a fire under these guys' asses and have someone who's not going to take any bullshit, right? So it sucks the way things worked out. You can argue whether it was his fault or not all day. Again, I think if you're going to do it, you have to clean house, right? The organization, we've never been so low, right? The Giants organization, this is complete and utter rock bottom for them. So I think it was time. I think the ownership is completely embarrassed at this point at what's happened to the Giants. So I think it was just absolute time to clean house and start over. I think it was a lot of fan backlash too. There was a couple days between Joe Judge getting fired and the GM getting fired, right? People were like, what is Joe Judge still doing here? There might have been a thought process saying, let's give him one more year with the new GM, right? But I think that would have deterred a lot of GMs saying, they're probably thinking, I'm not going there if Joe Judge is there. They saw what he's saying in the press conferences, and then they saw the record of the team. So it's a huge disconnect. So I don't know. To me, it's a big red flag. So I agree with the decision. I'm ready for someone new. I'm ready for someone who's going to be different, right? I'm not looking for Belichick Jr. That was great. We tried it. It's hard to implement if you're not Belichick. Let's be real, right? Let's look at other Belichick disciples, right? They're typically not successful. Mike Vrabel is kind of the outlier. But just excited for someone new, honestly, which is crazy because this is like our third head coach in how many years. So we'll see what happens.
As long as the new head coach doesn't wear the same suit like McAdoo wore at his press conference, I think you'll be okay.
Joe Judge didn't have any bad omens, though. So, McAdoo had the oversized suit. Shurmur had the lights go off in the middle of his, introduction to the team. Both times I'm like, who are these guys? What's about to happen to us?
You remember that Talking Heads video with the big suit Vinny? It reminded me.
Yeah. That was McAdoo.
That was McAdoo all the way.
So let's talk about quarterback, right? We know the offensive line was putrid, and that plays a big part. But do you think Daniel Jones is a franchise or potential franchise quarterback for the Giants?
I've been back and forth on this, honestly. You look at what he was working with, and it was practically nothing. You had Saquon gone half the year. You have Kenny Golladay, who literally you flick him and he breaks a leg or something. And he's just so injury prone. He's been that way his entire career. Meanwhile, Gettleman throws the bag of cash at him. That was, to me, a terrible signing. But then you look at the backups that came in. Yeah, okay, they're backups. We've seen backups be successful before, right? But the gap in how the backups competed versus Daniel Jones, you're like, wow, Daniel Jones was actually very successful compared to the other guys, and they're working with the same group of folks. So it's like, I don't know. I don't think he's the franchise guy, though. I don't think he's, I don't know. I've seen him live a couple of times. I've seen some of the decision making he's made, and there's been plenty of stupid decisions where a guy's been open and he throws a terrible pass and he gets picked off, right? It could be that he's a victim of trying to do too much, right? Because he's really the main guy who could drive that offense, without Saquon, without healthy receivers, the terrible offensive line, the quarterback is going to try to be successful in any way possible, right? So it could have been that he's been trying to do too much, right? And that's where it leads to mistakes. That being said, if we're talking Deshaun Watson or Russell Wilson coming to the Giants, let's go.
Yeah.
Right? Open arms, right? I'm hearing Brian Flores wants to bring Deshaun to wherever he's going. And New York is supposedly one of the top spots, right? Deshaun Watson lives in New York part-time. I think Brian Flores is maybe from the area or something like that. But that's what it's going to take, right? You attract those people, you attract other talent, other wide receivers, other personnel, and that's how you build a football team, right? So I think it starts with that. I don't think Daniel Jones is the franchise guy. I think you bring in someone like Deshaun Watson. Hopefully all his legal troubles are done and all that stuff. But he's 26 years old, right? There's time for Deshaun Watson to be our franchise quarterback. Again, this is complete speculation. I'm talking it's imminent. It's not. But it's exciting to kind of speculate, right? It's been out there for a couple months now that Russell Wilson wants to come to the Giants. So we'll see. I think if you're a GM and you get hired by the Giants, you have to look at those. You have no choice.
Well, they better hire the GM quick so you don't miss out. Let's get going here.
I know, right? I'm ready to go, but it's exciting. I'm excited. That's a silver lining when your team does terrible. You also have 2 top 5 or top 10 draft picks, so it's exciting to rebuild to see what players we can attract and who this GM is going to draft in the first round. So it's definitely very exciting.
I've never, with Watson, I've never seen a guy with 20 to 30 lawsuits against him. Yeah. And there's been no reconciliation on this matter at all. There's nothing going on. I mean, he got paid the whole season to sit out in Houston. He got paid his entire contract. He didn't take a snap. I don't even know if he even had to go to practice. All I know is he was on the active roster, and there's nothing that happened. No suspensions, nothing. I mean, it's the most incredible thing I've ever seen.
It's very weird.
But they keep saying, we'll know everything in March. Why March? Who knows? Maybe backlog of cases and all this. But he hasn't been arrested. There's no criminal charges against him at this time. Everything is civil. If you figure he gets through the criminal portion of it, and let's just say he gets hit up with some civil stuff, does Goodell suspend them for 4 games? Does he suspend them for 8 games? And at that point, going into the draft, like you said, you're going to have to give up picks to get them. The Giants have, 2 high first-round picks, top 10s, which I think they'll be happy to give up one of them. I don't think they want to give up both, but they'll be happy to give up one of them and maybe a future first-rounder to bring them in. You don't need them to play all 17 games next year, right? He can sit out the first 4 or 8 games because right. The team is, like you said, in a complete rebuilding mode. You bring them in. Daniel Jones still has a year left on his contract unless he's part of the trade. You trade him, out to Houston also. But either way, you have him. You bring him in, and I think going into the next year, you have your franchise quarterback. And like you said, he's 26 now. Let's just say he's 28 when all said and done. 28. And today's NFL is really young. You got a guy that you have another 10 years with. So I think it would make a lot of sense for the Giants to pursue that road if it's there. As long as the guy all the legal troubles is over and you did all your due diligence and background check. I think he's definitely a guy you want to bring into your franchise.
Yeah, we'll see. Fingers crossed. Like I said, it's very exciting. It's like complete clean slate. It's we have to wait a couple of years every time for this to happen.
Yeah. So I got one more question. You're the new GM. You're brought in. You're evaluating Saquon Barkley. we've seen recently the NFL doesn't really count on a number one back like that anymore to win Super Bowls, win games. But he has value. Would you play him out this last year of his rookie contract, or would you look to move him along and get some draft value or other value for him?
I think you keep him. I still think he could be a focal point of the offense. He's just so extremely talented. Like this kid is unbelievable. He's not like any other running back in the league. He plays like Barry Sanders. His change of direction is ridiculous. His vision is, up there with the best of them. Super fast, great hands. He still has all of that stuff, right? It's he needs, just to get healthy. That's it. He just needs to be healthy. I think you play out his final year. You see how he does. It's going to be tough to pay him though. After the final year in his contract, it's going to be tough to. It's going to be interesting to see what he wants, right? He hasn't been able to produce. It's going to be a tough argument on his end. The Giants are notorious for not budging at all. So it'll be interesting. I'd love to have him for one more year. That being said, nothing's off the table, right? Everyone has a price. So I would love to see what's out there and what gets offered to me. If someone has running back issues, but I think you're right, Vin. I think you nailed it. It's there's not much value around running backs anymore. And to draft a running back in the second pick overall, it's not that smart of a move anymore, right? I think Saquon, you look at his Penn State highlights, right? He's like a once-in-a-generation running back, truthfully. I think the Giants got excited by that. But yeah, he's very obviously injury-prone, but you can't deny the talent. I think you shop him around. I think what you see what you can get. And, you kind of just evaluate your next move from there. I think that's kind of in the background. I think first you got to look at your quarterback situation. I think even before that, you look at your offensive line. Like if I'm looking at the two picks that we have, if we don't trade one of them, I think you go back-to-back offensive line, or maybe, definitely first pick offensive line and then a pass rusher. That could be a thing too. But I think you have to have those first two picks to be both offensive line. That's what I would do if I was GM.
Yeah. Mike, any other questions?
No, I think we covered it.
I
just someone asked me, Maz, we'll get a kick out of it. Do you think the Jets are better off than the Giants right now? And I said, yes, but I agree with you that you have it's clean house and you have a lot to be excited for. There's a lot of decisions that have to be made. And I'm used to this as the Jets.
Yeah, it's sad and distant for Jets fans.
No.
I'm still reliving the glory days of that Super Bowl right there. Yeah, man. It's tough to be a fan when you just, and I'm saying just won the Super Bowl. It's been, like over a decade, but it feels recent, right? It feels like it just kind of happened. I was still older and I have a very vivid memory of both Super Bowls. So I'm attached to those Super Bowls. I'm attached to the players who won it for us. And it's amazing that after over a decade, you're still so thirsty to get back there. I think as a Jets fan, or if you're, a Texans fan, or, some other team that hasn't been in the Super Bowl or won one in a while, you lose sight of that, right? To win the championship and you have your team win the championship is just the sweetest feeling in the world, right? And it cannot be taken away from you. So, it just sucks to be a Jets fan.
I'm optimistic next year. But we'll get to that in another episode.
Yeah, we'll have a Jets episode.
We'll have to have generations of Jet fans come on.
Yeah.
Here's our 80-year-old miserable Jet fan.
Like the guy who killed himself on curb.
Oh my God, yeah.
All right. Let's talk about this week's games coming up. We'll start with the early game on Saturday, and I know Jeff is high on Joe Burrow, and a lot of people aren't really talking about the number one seed Titans. They're not sure how real they are. I think Ryan Tannehill continues to get that moniker of is he good enough and everything. But I think the big plus for Tennessee is Derrick Henry looks like he'll be back. I was watching him practice right before their bye week, and he looked strong. He looked sharp. He was making all the cuts and everything. What I saw on video. So they're that's their bread and butter, right? That's how they're going to win games. They're going to use Derrick Henry a lot. They'll play action AJ Brown a lot, and then hope that their defense will hold up. I know their weak point is passing, and I think that's where Burrow, with his 3 good receivers and really strong tight end, and then you can use Mixon a little bit more in the passing game in other ways. Could highlight that game. Mike, your thoughts on this Bengals Titans game?
Sure. So I just think one thing, yes, the Bengals did win against the Raiders, but one thing that they didn't do in the clutch was get touchdowns in the red zone. They settled for field goals. And I think you can't do that against the Titans team. You got to score in that red zone. They got to get up early. So I think Derrick Henry, it all depends. His first game back, is he going to be cold? Is he going to be hot? But bottom line is, Joe Burrow, Jeff, if he continues the way he plays, I like the Bengals in this game. And you know what? I was going back and forth, and I was doing more of my research. I do like the Bengals in this game. I think they have the momentum. I think it will be a close game. I think it will be a high-scoring game. I like the Bengals to win this one. Vinny?
I'm going to go with Tennessee. I think that bye week always helps for number 1 seeds. I think Derrick Henry coming back is going to be a major plus. Josh Jacobs, I thought, did a really good job running the ball against the Bengals last week. And I think when you have Derrick Henry, who's by far the best running back in football, coming back, I think Bengals are going to struggle, with time of possession. I think that's the way the Titans are going to play this game. They're going to try to do one of those 40-20 games where they possess the ball 40 minutes to their 20, keep Burrow off the field, and win this one pretty close. I could see it being like a 23-20 kind of Titans win.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm liking the Bengals. They're riding momentum. I think in the playoff football is completely different than the regular season, right? When you win in that first round, you have that momentum, right? And they dominated, right? They're going to ride that. The Titans, had a week to think about it and rest up. They have Derrick Henry's coming back from an injury. How is he going to perform, right? It's a big question mark. You're right. I've seen videos too where he's been cutting and running at full speed, which is like ridiculous that he's doing it that soon. But it's still a question mark. I just think, the Bengals have such great momentum, and, the win's kind of at their back right now with the way they're playing. And the fact that they got the first playoff game out of the way, right? The first playoff win. That is a huge monkey off your back.
First time in 31 years. If you're not motivated by that, I don't know. But Jeff, one other thing, Jamar Chase, obviously they're going to use him. But look, you have to have other matchups like T. Higgins. You got to utilize your players. And Mixon's, the running game, that's got to get better. So if you could utilize different people, I agree. I like the Bengals. It will be a close game, and we're looking forward to it. So we'll see what happens.
Okay. All right. Then Saturday night, in Lambeau Field, nothing like playing 8:00 at night when it's probably going to be 5 degrees out. I haven't looked at the weather yet, but either way, we know it's going to be cold in Green Bay. San Francisco's going to head up there. Aaron Rodgers, Devontae Adams, Aaron Jones. I know the Packers aren't the best run-stopping team. I think that's where San Francisco has a little bit of an advantage and maybe can exploit that a little bit. But I think it's a very tough task to go to Lambeau to play Aaron Rodgers, who's probably going to win back-to-back MVP, still has a chip on his shoulder about Jordan Love's being drafted in the first round. I think he has a chip on his shoulder about everyone making him the poster child for the unvaccinated and all this other stuff that comes out in Aaron Rodgers' world. And he's still mad that San Francisco didn't draft him when they could have as the first overall pick, and they took Alex Smith. I think the Packers can win this one by 10.
Yeah, one thing to keep the weakness of the Packers this year was stopping the run. Mm-hmm. I think teams average something like 4.5 or 4.7 yards That's been their weakness. Other than that, you have a great quarterback, and as you said, going to Lambeau is one of the hardest places to play, especially in 5-degree weather. The 49ers are used to good weather.
Yeah, especially when it's in Southern California.
And I think Jimmy Garoppolo, he's a good player. I don't think he's a great player. He gets the job done. I just think this is the end of the line for the 49ers. Packers easily.
And remember, it's Kyle Shanahan calling the offense. He'll probably forget to run the ball in Green Bay too. So it'll end up Jimmy G for pick sixes the other way.
It's a tall task, man. Going into Lambeau and that environment, the crowd is just ridiculous. It's such a home field advantage for the Packers.
Yeah, they're ready.
Aaron Rodgers, that cold, brisk. The tundra at Lambeau Field is what they say. That's a major advantage for the Packers. They're used to playing on that cold, rock-hard grass, and I'm sure they got some advantages on the sideline with special heaters and stuff, right? That's a thing, right? You heard the story with the Cowboys flying in their own bench to Washington. They have their little tricks on the sideline there. It's going to be tough to beat Aaron Rodgers this year. He's been playing lights out. Even at this age, he's going to be an MVP, which is ridiculous. Devontae Adams, Aaron Jones, all these weapons they have on that offense. It's going to be a tall task for them to.
Agreed.
And I'll give you a quick little story about Lambeau Field. Vince Lombardi would shut off the heat in the visitors' locker room before they would get there. That was one of the things that they used to do back in the old days.
That's awesome.
Teams would come in 40-degree locker rooms and trying to deal with that. Times have changed, of course, with that.
Yeah, who knows? They probably get fined and suspended for that.
Oh yeah. But that was one of the old school things that they used to do in Lambeau. All right. Rams Sunday, a first game early, going to Tampa, playing Tom Brady and his merry men, as I like to say. I have a tough time betting against Tom Brady nowadays. I think Tampa showed really good home record this year. They struggled on the road, but they were really strong at home. I think Tom Brady always finds a way to win. I don't see Matt Stafford having as comfortable as a game as he did against Arizona. They'll try to take down the run. They'll try to force him to throw the ball a lot more than I think Sean McVay is going to want to. And I think with all that, I see Tampa taking this game.
This is so hard for me because I think the Rams are going to do it. I just have this feeling.
Oh,
I'm with you. Yeah, I totally agree. The matchup is perfect for the Rams.
It's the anti-Brady crew.
I love Tom Brady. I'm allowed to love him. But the matchup is too good for the Rams.
Yeah, this is Tampa's worst matchup. And, I told you, Vinny, that the Brady, they have to change their game, Tampa, against this Rams team. Their pass defense is lethal. The Tampa Bay has so many injuries right now and questionables coming back. If you could apply pressure to Brady, which the Eagles did not do at all, it was so automatic, it's going to be a different kind of game. And I think that, I think Stafford, I think he's got, Jeff, you talked about this, momentum, confidence. He has it right now. And he wants to say a big F you to all those people in Detroit who gave him shit, and come in and really beat Brady. This would be, I think, if this is his game to win.
Yep. And
I'm going to tell you right now, I see it happening.
I think they have so much talent offensively and defensively, both sides of the ball. Like, I don't know, the Rams could win the Super Bowl this year. I think that's a very, very good possibility, honestly. So. The Bucs have no receivers except for Mike Evans and Gronkowski. Yeah. You got Jalen Ramsey, who's going to shadow Mike Evans the entire game, going to go anywhere he goes. You can count Mike Evans out. You have Gronk, who's still kind of Gronk, right? He's not the old Gronk that we know. He's definitely up there in age now. He's just a very big body who could run solid routes. He's more of a red zone guy. He's always been that. So he's not going to be the answer completely. If the Bucs want a chance of winning this game, they're going to have to run the ball effectively.
Well, that's why they need Fournette.
They only have Jared.
That's huge
right now.
Yeah.
So yeah, they need playoff Lenny. They need playoff Lenny back in the mix.
Yeah.
And that's going to be their only shot, I think, surprisingly. But you got Aaron Donald and Von Miller jumping down Tom Brady's throat. They're better than Justin Tuck and OCU and Yora. What happens?
You're right. They're Hall of Famers. Those two guys. You're right. Donald and Von Miller are heading to Canton. So you're definitely right there. I just can't do it. It's Tom Brady. I just can't do it.
I don't blame you. Listen, how many times people have had this conversation where the matchup, this and that. It's at the end of the day, it's the GOAT, right?
I know. It's just hard for me to do. All right, and then the biggest game of the week, in my opinion, Josh Allen and the Buffalo Bills rematch of last year's AFC Championship, where they really weren't in the game at all. Kansas City was just far superior. But as we've seen this year, Kansas City, I think, has shown sometimes where they just don't show up. They did rebound after that first quarter last week and just steamrolled. They looked like the old Chiefs. Mahomes was amazing. Kelsey was doing his thing. They were superior. But the Bills got some mojo, and you guys have been talking about that momentum and mojo moving forward. I think both quarterbacks definitely have it. I think the slight advantage for Kansas City could be that home field. I think that's where it might help them. And with that, that's why I'm gonna go with Mahomes to go to his fourth straight AFC Championship game, and I think Kansas City pulls this one off in a really close one. I could see this coming down to Butker going out there and kicking a field goal. And, 38-35 kind of game. A lot of scoring here. I know Spagnuolo is going to try to come up with all kinds of different defenses against Josh Allen and vice versa. McDermott, they come from the same cloth, right? They both Jimmy Johnson disciples, the defensive coordinator from the Eagles. So they come with that same mentality. But I think both of these quarterbacks will excel, and I just think because of that home field and Mahomes just being just a little bit better still is gonna figure it out.
Yeah. This is why I love a podcast, difference of opinion.
Here we go. This is gonna be the third time I think you're gonna disagree with me.
Yeah, this is great. It's great doing the show with you, Vinny.
This is perfect dynamic.
But the thing is that I'm gonna be right, and then he's gonna cry next week.
We'll see what the show is like next week. I just think about the Bills and their history, and Josh Allen, he has so much to prove. He's playing his best football, and I think if there's going to be any matchup for KC, I told you, in this particular game, this is a Super Bowl game here. Who makes it?
Yeah.
And I just feel that we talked about momentum and what they did to the Patriots. Now, they can't get too cocky, obviously, but I think they're going to be focused. And I think I agree with you. The thing I do agree with you, Vinny, it's going to be a very close fought game. A lot of good offense. And if Josh Allen can continue to rush, his speed and doing that and creating different patterns, and I just think this is the Bills' game to win more than lose. I like the Bills. I like them by a field goal, maybe 6 points, but it's going to be a very, very close game. I think it's going to be the most exciting game that people are looking forward to with this matchup. We'll see.
Yeah, I agree. I think if we're looking at the next Brady versus Manning rivalry, right? They're the two best teams. It's going to be close. I just, again, I'm going to side on, just the side of momentum. Again, right? The Bills absolutely dominated their opponent last week. They're going to ride that momentum into Kansas City. Weather's not going to be a factor because they play in Buffalo. So that is not, they'll have to deal with crowd noise, which they always do. But I think, I saw a clip just earlier today. It was Stephon Diggs stayed on the field last season to watch the entire AFC Championship celebration when the Chiefs won.
He went to the Cowboys game. Did you see he flew in there?
Did he really?
Yeah, he went to see his brother play.
Oh, yeah.
But he stuck on the field and watched the entire celebration. Like, to me, that's just showing how badly he wants it. He wanted to see what it was like, for these guys to celebrate, even though it wasn't his team. So the chip on the shoulder is there for Stephon Diggs. The chemistry between him and Josh Allen, is undeniable. Josh Allen is an absolute freak athlete. He's young, but he's still able to kind of play with his confidence, every week.
And like I said, his accuracy's been amazing. I mean, it's
been
real good.
The Chiefs have shown that they're human, right? I have Mahomes on my fantasy league, and for 6 weeks he screwed me and completely ruined my season. So I'm like, why did I draft him second round this year? Unbelievable. But he makes mistakes. And he knows who he's facing, right? This is a rivalry. This is a team that they're going to be facing in the playoffs for years to come. So there's added pressure for him. Again, it's Patrick Mahomes we're talking about, right? It's going to be a close game. I think I go with Bills on this one, but it's going to be very close.
Yeah, I think it's to me, this is the game to watch. I think we're going to get through those first 3 games, which I think are all going to be good games. But I think this is going to be the game that everybody is going to be pumped for. Sunday night, Sunday night's always like the game you get pumped for, even during the regular season. And this is the game to get pumped for. We're pretty deep into time here, so with that, what we're going to do is we'll post our picks on our Instagram page. So on Instagram, just go to Vin and Mike podcast on Instagram, and you'll see a post there that'll have our picks for this week. We'll base them off the DraftKings sportsbook, the current odds there. So, if anyone wants to know where we got our odds from, that's where we'll get them from, and we'll go that way. This has been a lot of fun for our first episode. I really enjoyed it. I think we got into some really good conversation. I think if we had another hour of time, we definitely would have done it and continue to move forward. So, real excited for more episodes as we continue. Jeff, thank you for joining us today.
Hey, thank you guys for having me. That was awesome. When you guys get picked up by Spotify in a multi-million-dollar deal, don't forget who your first guest was, okay?
I know. This is like history right here.
That's right.
Who was your first guest? The Maz.
The Maz was our man.
That's right. That's right.
Mike.
No, seriously, thank you guys.
Yeah, no, we appreciate Jeff. Mike, how you feeling about the first episode?
I gotta tell you, I was so amped to do this, and I couldn't, honestly, like Vinny, you and I, just so people understand, Vinny and I talk all the time. We're real sports nuts, just not even just current sports history, just constant conversations. And we just said to ourselves one day, let's turn this into a podcast. Let people be able to tune into something that they can relax and listen and just hear about things. And one thing I really appreciate is having a guest on all the time. I think that's going to be important to bring perspective. And just, again, it's not just, we're going to do sports, we're going to do betting, but anything that comes into our mind. So we just want to hear from you. So, join us, and it's been fantastic. And
you guys, honestly, 2 of the perfect people to host a sports podcast. Just like, I've known you guys for years now, and I think the main thing we always talk about is sports. You guys are super knowledgeable, and you guys are just a great hang, and it's always a great conversation with you 2 guys. So it's you guys are going to be successful. I'm excited for you guys.
Thanks, Jeff. Appreciate that.
Come back soon.
Good time.
All right, and with that, we'll say goodbye to everybody and tune in next time. Have
See
a
you
good
next
night.
time.